Hi everyone, this is Lydia Bryseth, the manager of Colorin, Colorado, and I'm so happy to be here today with Nathaniel Provencio from Prince William County. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for inviting me, really appreciate it.
Right at the beginning of the school year when it's busy, although to be fair, the air conditioning is being replaced at the school.
Yes.
So they were happy to get him out of the building, and we're happy that
I was
he
happy
had
to get out of the building
a
too.
nice cool place to go anyway. So we're thrilled to be here for this Facebook Live event. And we wanted to thank our partner, the National Education Association, who has made this series of Facebook Live events possible. We started back in the spring with Diane Starfenner talking about advocating for English language learners. And we're going to be holding a number of events over the next couple of months focusing on ELLs and different ways that they can be supported in the school setting. We also wanted to thank our founding partner, the American Federation of Teachers, as well. And we've had a long partnership with them, and they have made so many great resources possible through Colorin, Colorado. So thank you, AFT, NEA. If you are a member of the AFT or NEA, I know they'd love to hear from you. And we always welcome the opportunity to hear how AFT and NEA members are using Colorin, Colorado. So I want to jump in, and I encourage everybody to share comments and questions as we start talking with Nathaniel. And I want to congratulate you. You've had a really great year.
Yeah.
Nathaniel was named not only the Washington Post Principal of the Year for the DC region recently, he was also named the Principal of the Year for his school district, Prince William County in Virginia. So Nathaniel, before we get into all the great things happening at your school, let's talk just a little bit about your background and
Sure.
some of your early experiences in school.
Okay, so well, I'm originally from a very small town in Tennessee. It's Savannah, Tennessee. So I grew up with my younger brother, and in this small town, there wasn't necessarily a plethora of diversity, if you will, within students and kids and families. So growing up, we were one of a handful of Hispanic students growing up in the community. It was a great community, a great southern area. However, struggled a little bit. I didn't necessarily see myself in my peer group. I didn't see myself in the teachers. So it was a little bit of a struggle. School was not. I wasn't good at it. Struggled a little bit. But through it all, I was able to find my way as when I had to make some tough choices, and I was able to align myself with a group called the Future Teachers of America. And so I was able to work with them. It really just helped me get out of class, so to take some extra credit stuff. But I liked it. I liked being around teachers. I liked the process. I liked the art and the science of teaching, and it helped me get a different perspective. And I decided to try to go to college. So I was the first in my family to go to a university, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I went to the University of Northern Alabama in Florence, Alabama, and was able to have a pretty decent college career, and wanted to leave the area because I wanted to work. So in 2001, I moved to Northern Virginia, Prince William County. No friends, no family, but I had a job. And so Prince William County has just been a very special place for me since 2001, and it's an amazing area, and I've been there ever since.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you for getting us there. And I think the quote that I read in the Washington Post article about you was that you wanted to be the teacher you never had.
Yes.
Can you say a little bit more what you mean about that?
Yeah. So, kind of like what I said previously, teachers, they did the best they can. All teachers do the best they can do. But in thinking back, I never had that relationship, that maybe I needed, I needed someone to really push me and not necessarily label me, It's one thing to say, well, Nathaniel, you're a terrible student. Okay, all right, thank you. Are you trying to motivate me? What are you doing? It's another thing to say, let me give you the resources. Let me reach out to you so that you can grow from where you are. So, so I wanted to be that champion for students that maybe I didn't necessarily have, even with teachers' best intentions. So, and also going into education was very special for me as well. My family, economically struggled as children. You know, my mother came from a family where, you know, you just didn't do homework. I mean, that was considered idleness. And so, you know, so she struggled growing up. My father struggled growing up. So I wanted to not only help myself, but I also wanted to pay this gift of having a degree forward, and you know, be a teacher that my parents didn't have. So so there's definitely a sense of altruism with me, and I do believe that teaching is basically missionary work, and that's what's always kept me grounded throughout my career, and it's something that I hope I never lose.
Last night I was having a cup of tea before I went to bed, and you know how sometimes there's a little slogan on the tea bag or sort of your little inspirational moment,
Right.
and I won't get it exactly right, but the quote was from Ralph Waldo Emerson, and the quote was, "The way to plant 1,000 forests is through a single acorn." And I thought that's such a great thought as I'm getting ready to have this conversation with
Sure.
you, because you are someone who might not have given school a second thought once you kind of
Sure.
got out of it and got it behind you, and then to turn around and become not only a teacher but a principal who is leading other teachers, leading other families, I think is a part of the story that people have found inspiring
That's great.
for
That's
you.
great.
So thank you for giving us that background. And I know you love talking about your district and school, so I won't hold you back any further. Tell us a little bit more about Prince William County Schools, where it's
Yeah.
located, and kind of what your student population is like.
So Prince William County is, well, depending on traffic, it's approximately 30 minutes south of Washington, D.C. It's an amazing community, a very diverse community. I think we have approximately 100 schools within the division. And my school specifically is one of approximately 25 Title I schools. So we have unique needs. Title I schools have unique needs, but we have amazing students, amazing staff, and great support from the division level to help us do some of the great things that we're doing. There's a wonderful site-based management aspect to our division that allows leaders to lead and teachers to teach. And so it's an amazing division, and a lot of our school's success, our staff's success, you know, my success is directly correlated to the level of support that we have in our division.
Oh, that's great to hear. Tell us a little bit about your population, the kids, and I know that's going through some changes too right now, so
Yeah.
let's hear a little bit more about
So Minnieville Elementary is located in the Del City area of Prince William County, the Woodbridge area. We have approximately 500 students, and of those 500 students, 80% are considered economically disadvantaged, meaning they qualify for free and reduced lunch. And also of those 500 students, 60 to 70% are second language learners. I say 60 to 70% because we also have about a 20% transiency rate. So around 100 students that start with us in September do not end with us at the end of the year. So there's different layers of challenges that we have, but there are also opportunities to make sure that we're always on point with our instructional efforts, and that we're making sure that every student that comes in our door is going to receive a really great educational experience. And it keeps us fresh. It makes sure that we're on our toes and that our systems are aligned and our processes are very strategic and can't fluctuate. So, and with those, even with those challenges and opportunities, we've done very well as a school. Not only academically, but also just building up the entire community.
Great. And I'm just going to take a moment to welcome all of those of you who are just joining us. I'm Lydia Bryseth, the manager of Colorin, Colorado, here with Nathaniel Provencio, a principal from Virginia. And we encourage you to comment, to ask questions, also to like, to share this post as you see it, and we'll get it in front of as many people as we can. If you think your principal might be interested in seeing it, send it along. And I also wanted you to know that there will be an archive of this as well as a video on Colorin, Colorado. So we will make sure that it's available for a long time to come. So let's dig into a little bit more of your student population in terms of their cultural background, language background, and their prior experiences.
Yeah, so very diverse student population. A relatively large amount of our second language learners are Central American, Honduras, El Salvador, And then we have about 100 students that are from West Africa. So that's so it's not all, a lot of people think high second language schools are primarily Spanish speaking. But Minnieville is unique because not only do we have the Central American Spanish speaking families, but we also have families from West Africa who speak French, who speak Twi, Creole, and then we also have a recent influx of Middle Eastern students, and a lot of those students are refugees coming from Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, and so we've had a larger influx of those students coming in, and of course everything in between. So it's allowed this great cultural diversity that we have at Minnieville that's very, very unique to a lot of schools. The community that we serve, there are 2 apartment complexes that we pull from, and a lot of the neighborhoods are, we have townhome neighborhoods, and we have some older single-family homes, homes that were built in the late 60s, early 70s. But in those single-family homes, it's very typical that 3 to 4 families will actually live in those homes that are rented out, basements are rented out. And then with the apartment complex, families, they're always trying to do better for themselves. They're always trying to procure affordable housing, which is a challenge, but also permanent housing. So that lends itself to some challenges with the transiency that we have. So.
Like what? What would be some examples of some of the difficulties?
So one of the things is, like I said, is trying to procure affordable housing. So you could have, there's one story that we have is a family who had, I think, one house, 3 to 4 different families that lived in the house. A couple kids get in a fight, they argue with each other, they have to leave. So then they have to go to another house or another area, and then so some things that are coming in, that could be a reason. Real estate goes up, they can't afford it, families have to leave. Unfortunately, one of the most heartbreaking issues has been some repercussions from immigration issues that have come up. So, for example, in one community, you could have one parent who is going to have to be deported. Well, that sends a shockwave of fear in a community, in a household, and so families, they don't necessarily know what to do. So they they may have to leave in order to find what they feel is safety and security, and until they can get their situation together to return. It's become more prevalent within our school, and our counselors, our teachers, our support staff have had to re-equip themselves of what those services mean for those students. I mean, I've been in cafeterias eating with my kindergartners, and a 5-year-old will come to me and say, Mr. Provencio, am I going to have to go back home? I've never even been to this home, to El Salvador before. What do I do? And you have to look at these children, and you have to be able to give them an answer where they know that they're safe and secure, and that if they're in the school, they're going to be good. But in the back of my mind, that there is a reality out there that we want to make sure that we equip ourselves with. So there's some very complicated economic, cultural, and now political aspects that go into highly diverse schools with large numbers of second language learners, and that has, even in the last 8 years, it's been there, but much more pervasive now in the last couple of months.
We will follow up more on the immigration theme
Mm-hmm.
a little bit later as well. But I know one thing we talked about as we were getting ready to go live was that you're dealing with a lot of different cultures and a lot of different expectations from parents who are coming from different educational experiences, maybe having some negative educational experiences, and different expectations of what the school should be. I wondered if you might be able to give some examples of what
Sure.
that looks like.
So we understand, and our staff knows, and that every parent that walks in our door, it's not an enrollment number. It's an opportunity for a relationship. These parents have these amazing gifts. The cultural and linguistic gifts that they have are going to just enhance our school. And so when we have a family come in, we want to make sure that they are welcome from the time they open up their door to the time they walk to our front doors, enter our school building. we want to make sure that we have surprised them with a lot of grace and quality customer service. We know some parents have had terrible educational experiences and past hurts. And so they're going to be coming into a school with sometimes those kinds of perspectives. We have parents that are coming into our school that maybe we're used to seeing schools as government-run agencies. So there's a perspective that this school is going to be a government-run agency that has a lot of rules and regulations and things, and there's some parents can be scared and put off by that perception. You know, and some schools, some parents come in and hold the schools at such high esteem that, you know, take my child and you do what you have to do and I'm going to go to work. So we want to make sure that our staff, everyone in our staff knows that we are extremely customer service, customer focused, customer centric. And when our parents come in, we're gonna embrace our parents. We're gonna make sure that there's no language barriers to getting them the services that they need. And Prince William County has done an amazing job with providing us resources to help our diverse parents coming in. No parent has to schedule an appointment with me. If a parent comes in and wants to talk with me, I stop what I'm doing and I make sure that I go to that parent as soon as possible. We give personal tours. We make sure that parents see the kind of education that's going to happen in their building, and answer questions right there on the spot, so that they feel at ease. One of the big things that we were able to do is we noticed an equity issue with school supplies. Something simple like school supplies. They're expensive. Even on the penny days, where you can buy a pack of pencils for a nickel, it adds up. And we always ask our parents, what can we do to help? What more can we do? And they're like, well, in the summer we spend a lot of money, and that's money taken away from groceries and other things. And I was like, yeah, you're right. There's something called a free and appropriate public education for a reason. So we worked with our PTO to purchase school supplies for every single child coming in. And so parents coming in who already may have some issues or some anxieties, when they hear that, no, everything's going to be taken care of for your child, you just see the sigh of relief. We're building relationships with these parents, and at the end of the day, they're telling their neighborhood what a great school Minnieville is. They're telling their coworkers what a great school Minnieville is. And that's enhancing our bottom line, which is also the instructional efforts. So we see this direct relationship with quality service and instructional efforts, and we want Minnieville to be not just a school, but a community, a jewel in the Del City community. So we really strive on having that customer focus aspect to our instructional program. It's a strategic goal for us, and we want to make sure that we continue to do that.
Well, I think it's interesting to think about what does success mean and what does it look like, and you have the academic feathers in your cap to that I think a lot of people would be looking for and impressed by. But my sense in talking to you is that what is success to you is the fact that your parents come in, they feel that they have a relationship with you, children hug you in the hallway, they feel a connection there, and that is what makes everything possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, so you have qualitative data and you have quantitative data. And as a Title I school, our student performance is amazing. It's great. It's not where it needs to be. We can always still grow with those areas, but we've done well with that, and we've proven that it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You can learn if you have people that are around you that's going to have relationships with you and support you. And we never see students' background, the differences they have, as a liability. It's always a gift. Sometimes that can be challenging on some days. We understand that. There's a reality to that. But we work very hard for that, and we want to make sure that students are leaving happy, and students are leaving being better than they were the day before. And not only do we want our students to leave better, we want our teachers and staff to leave better. We want to make sure that every day is very special to them, because teaching is hard, it's stressful. There's never enough time, never enough money. So we want to make sure that the teachers that we bring on board at Minnieville have that sense of altruism, have that mission focus, and are going to do everything they can to have a quality instructional day for their students, but also just have an amazing day for their students. The parents see that, the community sees that, and it just builds this collaborative culture of excellence that we strive for every day.
Well, this is a good time to mention Ashley Hoyle says,
Ashley, hey.
Go Minnieville, yay Mr. P. So she is so dedicated that she is watching your Facebook Live.
Hey Ashley, how you doing?
So
how you
that's
doing?
good.
That's great.
That's great.
Ashley is our, not only our reading specialist, but she's also our community involvement coordinator. Yep. So she plays a huge role in helping us carry out the vision and mission with our community engagement. So thank you, Ashley. Now, yeah.
Excellent. Well, Ashley, we're going to be talking a little bit more about your work just coming up, so that's good. And Chandni Kohli says, our ELL students make America great. They bring so much beauty to our American school systems. I love them all. And that sounds like sort of the spirit in which this is working. You mentioned something earlier about property values, and I think that's another sort of interesting, maybe not measure of success, but an indicator of something that is happening in your community. Could you speak a little bit about that?
Well, and it is I do see something like that as a qualitative measure. So when I came to Minnieville, we had some challenges in 2010. Parents were leaving, going to different schools, moving out of the community because the numbers weren't good, and the diversity was changing very rapidly, and it wasn't necessarily, the school makeup wasn't what it was in the early 90s or early 2000s. And so one of our goals was, why are we having so many parents leaving? We don't want any parent to leave so we have to change the perception here. We have to have a massive branding effort to be able to get our community back to where they feel a sense of pride in their school. I don't want anyone to leave us, especially coming in new. They didn't know me, and so one of the things that I did, I was interested in this. I started looking at real estate websites, your Zillows and your Keller Williams, and they have a school rating, that they use when they're marketing and branding their homes. And you would see, like the little 4-star rating for some neighborhoods, and I don't even know if we had any stars or whatever in our ratings. And I was like, wow, this is very interesting. Our school perception is it's out there. And so what do we need to do to change this? Because people are looking to come into a neighborhood, they look at these things. So it was one of those just kind of happenstance things that we were able to look at and say, we need to stay on top of this. So I even had the opportunity to reach out to real estate agents that were representing our community and let them know about our school. Come look at our website. Come have lunch with us. Have some Salisbury steak in the cafeteria. And also not only invited real estate agents, but also inviting local communities to come in too. Businesses that were in the area, because we don't want anyone to be ashamed of the school. We want to celebrate the school. And if our school is doing well, then it's going to bring in more residents, and then they're going to end up buying products in the community, and it's going to bring up the entire community. So just something like looking at real estate values was a measure for us. And so now, whether it's some informal areas like greatschools.com or schooldigger.com, people put in their perceptions of good things that are happening to the school. And so now you'll see 3.5 to 4 stars when you're looking. So property values have slowly starting to increase, which for the residents, there's a sense of pride there, because now they have this symbiotic relationship with the school. So if the school's doing well, our kids are doing well, property values are going up. I also want my kid, to do well in school. So I want, little Johnny, do well today. And I think it's something it's principals can lose sight of. A lot of our teachers and a lot of principals in schools don't necessarily live in the same communities that they serve. I'm very blessed to be able to do that at this point. And so, I go to the barber who's a parent who cuts my hair. We go to the grocer. We interact. My family interacts with our community, and just to see them have such pride in Del City and Minnieville Elementary, it's just absolutely outstanding. So, test results say one thing, but having parents come to you and say, Mr. Provencio, we've decided not to move this year because we want our 4th grader to finish out their school year with us as a 5th grader. That says a lot, and I think that's really what schools should be measured on, isn't it?
Right.
So.
Right. And what are some of the other things that you have done to connect with your community and with your partners and other folks who are around?
So our assistant principal, Ms. Deborah Ellis, also plays a huge role in helping me link up to our community. Everything we do is a community effort, is a collaborative effort, a school community collaborative effort. So I don't sit around doing all these things, I'm a part of these aspects. But our assistant principal just does an amazing job with actively seeking out community engagement. And she came to me and said that she had some conversations, and I had seen this too, with students that were mortified of the police, terrified of the police. They said that the police are going to take my dad away. They saw the police department as immigration agents, and had experienced just some things in the community where there was this terrible misconception of the police department, because unfortunately the only interactions that the students were seeing of the police were on what was on TV and what was happening in their community. So we were looking for a new business partner. And a lot of times when we seek out business partnerships, a lot of businesses want to write us a check. Here's some money to go buy some computers. You need some more iPads, here's a check to do that. But one of the things we're looking for are relationships. We want to see professionals in our building that look like our kids, that act like our kids, that are coming from the same backgrounds as our kids, interacting with our students, which is harder to do than to write a check. So we saw this opportunity with building a relationship with the Prince William County Police Department, and had some conversations with some sergeants and some school security officers, and they loved what we were talking about, and they were looking for some opportunities. So once a week, officers in full uniform would come in and interact with the kids, play games with the kids, talk to the students, be mentors to students. We didn't get a dime from this, but we got the power of relationships. And so now, when something happens in the neighborhood, these same kids recognize these police officers, and now they're not villains, they're heroes, because they were able to break down that misconception. That's what schools need to do, and to me, that's actually great community policing, and it's more proactive than reactive. So those are the types of things that we're always seeking to do as a school, and it takes a lot of time, but great people like our assistant principal and our team, they just do an amazing job with that, and it helps just build up the entire culture of our school.
That's great. One of the events that you told me is kind of a highlight as you kick off every year is the Amazing Race.
Oh, yeah,
so
our
I will
Amazing
say
Race.
nothing more and just let you take it away.
So yeah, the Amazing Race. So love the show. It's a great show, but we did realize that the teachers that we were bringing in weren't necessarily familiar with our community and the diversity of our community, and I've been a part of schools as a teacher where we get a bus and we drive around the neighborhoods and we see what the neighborhoods are like, and that's okay. But we want our new staff, when they come into our building, to immediately resonate and build relationships and rapport with our families in our neighborhoods. So we create this Amazing Race challenge, and I'll share with you one story of one of the challenges that we did. This was actually with our entire staff. We received a donation for some funds, and we used the money to buy bookshelves coming from a company from Sweden. So I'll let you fill in the blank with that. So we bought all these Swedish bookshelves, okay? And one of the challenges, part of this Amazing Race, was as a team to work together to put this thing. Now that's a challenge in and of itself when you have the one little Allen wrench tool. So the teams had to put together these bookshelves, and we didn't tell what we were going to do with the bookshelves. They just thought that they had to put together bookshelves. So they put together the bookshelves, and then they were also tasked with driving around to different areas in the community to pick up special boxes. Now in these boxes were school supplies, backpacks, gift cards, school supplies that we actually had donated from our PTO and other businesses. But the staff didn't know what was in these boxes. So they're driving around as quickly as they can without breaking the law, to these different areas in the community to pick up these boxes. So not only were they picking up the boxes, they were knowing the different neighborhoods. So they had to do this Amazing Race, and then they also got the bookshelf together. And their last journey on this Amazing Race was a family's home that they just had an address. They didn't know it was a family, but it was a family who desperately needed resources and supplies. So six teams, 6 different families. They knocked in, the families knew they were coming. They brought in these amazing school supplies, gift cards, and a student desk for the family and the kid to do their homework. And you would have thought that we were giving these families $1 million. They were so appreciative. And our teachers got into the families' homes and learned what it was like, for some of these families and how they lived. You might see a nice single-family home, but they're splitting the basement with 2 different families. And so bringing these resources into these families, seeing how appreciative the families are, and at the end of this amazing race, we all got back together, and I said, remember these situations when you're assigning homework. When you're asking students to do X, Y, and Z outside of your room, this is the area that they have to do that in. It's probably not like the area that you grew up in and you did that. And just what a wonderful perspective that gave our teachers. So, and it built relationships. It had a sense of empathy for our, not sympathy, but empathy for our families. And, just taking the time to do something like that each year just helps the staff understand and appreciate the treasures that we have in our students in the neighborhoods, and not to take anything for granted. So yeah, we do something like that every year, so we're real proud of that.
And I think it's such a great example, and I look forward to getting more information about it so we can share it with people who might like to try it in the future.
Sure.
Tyler Davis says, Tyler is here too.
Yay,
so
Tyler,
so
how
I
you
know
doing?
you're not taking attendance, but we'll see if we can get some more people to say hello as well. And I just want to remind everybody, you're seeing Facebook Live Colorin, Colorado. I'm Lydia Bryseth, the manager of Colorin, Colorado, here with Nathaniel Provencio, principal of Minnieville Elementary in Prince William County, Virginia. So you had talked a little bit about what families experience when they come through the door. So I'd like you to walk us through kind of what you come into the doors of your school, what you see, what you experience, and then what is the experience once you get to the front office, once you have to enroll your student and sort of start that formal process.
So the majority of the families that enroll are second language learner families. And so when they come in, they meet Miss Ross, our amazing secretary, who doesn't speak Spanish, but we also have another secretary, Miss Santiago, who is bilingual. And then we also have a plethora of staff. We have Arabic-speaking staff member. We have an Urdu-speaking staff member. We have parents that are on call who speak French who help us all the time. And then the division has amazing resources if a family comes in that's a low-incident language that we don't really have the resources for. So we have all these resources to make sure that language is not going to be a barrier for their enrollment process.
And I'm sorry, I'm going to stop you. So I'm just going to say, so you have the district helping with the language, you have the staff, both administrative and the teachers, and you have the interpreters, and you have parents.
Parent volunteers.
So you have all these different levels, and I think for a lot of administrators who are finding the language issue as a barrier, as a challenge, I think it just underscores you can tackle it a lot of different ways.
Sure.
You don't have to find one solution that fits everything, because you probably won't, because each language reflects a different situation with the size of the community, how many people are there, how long has this community been in the area, how many people speak the language. So I will let you continue, but I just wanted to highlight for those administrators who might be watching our chat here that you can really get creative and see what resources are at your disposal using your community. So, excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please, go ahead.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Because the job's too hard for one person to do it. So they come in, and most of our families, after we get a sense of their language, they fill out a home language survey. If it's deemed that English is a second language, we do have central office support. So they will complete an enrollment process at a central location. They will do an assessment with the students to give us a level of their language, and then we immediately try to get them back into the schools to start a conversation with them. What was schooling like in your other country? Did you have schooling in your other country? Did you have any extra services? What kind of teacher do you want? What are your expectations of us? Can we show you the school? So we try very hard to have a relationship with all of our families coming in, and even the families that have been with us for a while, we make sure that we continue to get them in and show them some of the new things that we're doing. So and just start that relationship process. And then we're as strategic as we can be with student placements with who their teacher is going to be, but we're also extremely confident that it's not a lottery system. You're going to get the best teacher that we have, and it doesn't matter. All teachers in third grade are going to be a great fit for your child. So we make sure that but parents still understand that they do have a choice in the matter. Currently, we have 6 ESOL teachers on our staff, so approximately 1 per grade level, but they don't necessarily work with that 1 grade level. So there's a lot of additional support with that. And then we also have reading supports, math specialists. So when a child, after they're enrolled and they're in our school, they're going to have an army of professionals that are going to surround them and give them as much support as possible. And it really does help that student grow, because the job is hard enough in and of itself. So we try to make sure that our strategic plan is and our collaboration is not happenstance. It's very strategic. It's very planned out. There's a methodical sense to our collaboration with our ESOL teachers, our special education teachers, and our classroom teachers, so that the student is going to immediately have a plan when they come in. We're not waiting for our students to fail. They're going to be successful from the time they walk in. So not only welcoming them through the relationships which we've talked about, but also giving them sound instructional support is very, very, very keen. And then we see our students as having gifts. It's not a detriment to speak another language. It's a gift. And so we're actively seeking out the talents of these students that may not necessarily lend themselves to a language talent or mathematical talent. These students are coming in with a range of special skills, not only academic skills, but emotional intelligence too. Some of these babies are traveling to different countries, having to assimilate in different communities with different family members, with different friends and classrooms. That takes a high level of emotional intelligence, which to me is a gift to be able to do successfully. And I don't think we give our second language learners and our immigrant students enough credit for what they have to do as children. Lord knows I couldn't do it as an adult. So our staff sees these gifts in our students, not just the academic gifts, but the emotional talents. And we try to really reach out and find those gifts and talents. And I'm very proud. One of the things that we do at Minnieville is we have a very high number of students found eligible and brought up for eligibility for gifted. And I think that's a place that we want to be. And it just takes a change in perspective of how you see these students. It's not they're not academic challenged, but these are students of promise. We just have to make sure that we're actively seeing that.
And I'd like to flag 2 things you said. One is the importance of the student background and the educational experience that may really have an impact on what you see in a classroom with a child in front of you, and also the asset-based model. I think a lot of a lot of the discussion around ELLs is what they say, a deficiency lens.
That's right.
Because you're talking about what they can't do, which is they haven't mastered the skills of English, the English language yet. But as you said, there's so many other things they can do. Not only the language that they bring or the languages, they might be more than one, but as you said, all these other experiences and successes that they've had in other ways that don't necessarily make themselves apparent on a reading test.
That's right.
So having a leader like you with a staff that is looking for those talents and saying, sure, there are challenges, where can we lift them up? But I think that is so important in how the tone is set and the expectation for the children that we are all here to succeed and to find where you have succeeded and help you continue to succeed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're human. We make mistakes. We have students that have extreme challenges, and it's frustrating. But that's not our default mode. We want to make sure that we're just seeing these students as just what opportunities can we invest in these students? What are their gifts? Let's really look at that first and teach students not through starting off with a tier 3 intervention, which is where you don't want to be. You want to start off getting it right first. Tier 1 instruction. Let's make sure that we see all these students. Let's get it right the first time. Let's pour the instruction in. Let's pour the collaborative efforts in. Let's make sure that our language objectives are solid. Our reading objective, our content objectives are solid. The reading skills are all there. Let's not wait for a student to fail to have to pour in those resources for those students. And through an RTI model, I've lived this personally, where so many efforts and financial resources are waiting for students to fail with all the interventions that you feel like you have to buy, and if you don't buy these things for your school, you're not a good school. No, that's not right. Get it right the first. Invest in Tier 1 instruction, especially when you have high economically disadvantaged populations and high ESOL populations. It's not the ESOL teacher's job. You don't send them to the ESOL teacher to fix it. No, you bring those teachers in, and you work collaboratively to get it right. And that's what we try to do at our school. So.
Well, you said the magic word collaboration, and so I want to talk a little bit more about the PLC that you use, but also I have a question from Bienvenida Primavera, who says, how are you training teachers to face specific challenges and fairly serve these students?
So that's a great question. I don't know if there is our teachers have great resources through our division to have the kind of cultural sensitivity training, if you will, to make sure that they have access to it. But that's very much informal, and it's hypothetical. Because of the diversity that we have as our staff, our professional development learning is with an actual student and with an actual family. So when we're sitting, we have our monthly student at promise meeting, or a typical RTI meeting, if you will. And we're talking about students not as numbers or deficits, but as students. And if I'm sitting with a teacher who has a student that's from Syria, who has experienced traumatic issues with experiencing war and experiencing the kind of political turmoil that that's a conversation that as a team we have. And with our counselors as much as possible, with division resources, so that we can make sure that we're not looking at a student's academic needs, but we're also looking at the student's emotional needs. Now, to me, that's the best kind of professional development that you can have, is have a relationship, talk with the family. Let's learn about the student as a human being and not just a test score. So my job is to set the tone. I don't have all the answers, but I can set the tone, and I can be a model for my staff members. And so to be able to help them have a sense of empathy, get to build a relationship with them, work with the parents' family, go to their home, break bread with them, I have a teacher at Minnieville, a couple teachers, Adriana Hurtado and Stephen Wheeler, two of the most just heartfelt teachers that I've ever worked with, who have no issues knocking on doors, breaking bread with families, telling them good news and also telling them bad news, but meeting them on the family's terms. We talk a lot about an open door policy. Well, whose door are you opening, or whose door are you knocking at? The principal's door or the parent's door? And so we have some staff members that just do a remarkable job about that. Once you visit a family on their terms one time, it makes the next 99 so much easier. I have teachers and myself, we ride buses home with our kids. We hang out with them at the bus stop. That's the kind of professional development that you actually need, not something from a textbook. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach, and I think what you're sharing is resonating with our audience. We have Tammy Sanchez saying yes, so much more than what can be demonstrated in a reading test. So thank you, Tammy. And Roberta Leary says this is a wonderful approach. In the future, those that you help, it will pay off. So thank you for those comments. I know in terms of your collaborative model, you have your goal is not so much to get kids out, but to sort of have the support happening. Can you just talk a little bit what that looks like?
Yeah. So especially with reading instruction, there are, I've been a part of it, and I've seen different aspects of how language arts instruction is carried out. And for us, the language arts aspect is, one of the most essential parts of the day. And we want to make sure that 90 minutes or 120 minutes is spectacular, that all of our T's are crossed and I's are dotted when it comes to reading instruction. Our kids have to learn to read. And we have K-5, we have kindergarten students coming in that have never set foot in a preschool classroom. So our kindergartners the learning curve is tremendous with them. But they end the year all being on grade level. It's amazing. We have fifth graders coming in who have maybe spent only a couple of days sometimes in a school in Central America. We've seen this, having to perform on a fifth grade level. So tremendous challenges with that. So we want to make sure that our reading instruction is top notch. So when we were evaluating our RTI model originally, we had a lot of students being pulled out. Everyone was being pulled out. And it was basically, it became the silo of instruction where the classroom teachers were not necessarily taking accountability on the successes or the challenges that their students had, because it was the ESOL teacher's responsibility, or it was the SPEDS teacher's responsibility. So we wanted to make sure that our program was totally inclusive, and that students saw themselves as part of a classroom culture, a strong classroom culture, where all the resources were being brought in. So we looked very strategically at the resources that we had. We did an asset map as a school, outlining who were our specialists, who was the best supports, who were our best teachers, what kind of collaboration model did we have. And so for one grade level, we decided to stop pushing kids out and start pulling resources into these classrooms. So in a typical classroom, for 30 minutes, you would have the ESOL teacher doing a guided reading or strategy-based lesson with ESOL students in the classroom teacher working with students, a reading assistant working with students, a reading specialist working with students. So instead of the classroom teacher doing a small group reading and having to manage all these different centers and kids being pulled out all over the place, just a real disjointed type of literacy instruction, that was doing nothing for us. Einstein's definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Well, that's where we were. So let's stop pushing kids out. Let's pull the resources in, and being able to work with everybody in the classroom environment, providing solid differentiated instruction on their level, gave a greater sense of community, increased the level of engagement in reading, because kids weren't wasting time being pulled out. The teachers knew what was going on because they were in the same classroom. It enhanced their collaboration. It enhanced their collaborative planning, which was also essential. And then when we started doing that, other grade levels wanted to come along. And so now we have a school-wide, we call it our press-in model, that focuses heavy on great language arts instruction, doing it first. Once we started doing that, amazing thing happened. Our eligibilities for special education drastically dropped. Our behavior issues in the class drastically dropped. Our gifted eligibilities started to increase. Our SOL scores started to increase. Just for us, we were able to learn from each other, enhance our collaborative planning as a professional learning community, and also our collaborative instruction. So just bringing resources in and having everyone in the same room for language arts greatly increased our SOL performance, and it's something that I would encourage schools to look at. The best professional development I ever had was I spent a whole day with a student. Just the whole day, and I had a stopwatch, and I followed that student around all day, and every time that student was engaged in what I determined as quality reading instruction or quality instruction, I started it. So in a whole day, this poor child had about 15 minutes of engaging instruction because he was out of the room, tuned out when he was away from his peers, coming back in, throwing a fit because he was lost after he came back into his classroom. And I was like, now I'm spending time with one student, and in a whole day, 15 minutes of instruction. This is awful. This is malpractice. We cannot let this happen. So we had to just really rechange our focus on how we were delivering instruction. And doing that through language arts was one of the best ways that we could do that. So I would encourage principals to do the same thing. Follow a student around a whole day. See how much time they're actually engaged in instruction, and then have a conversation with your staff. Was this a success, or is this something that we need to change our focus on? Because the magic needs to happen in the classroom, not outside the classroom.
We have a wonderful video interview with one of our project advisors named Dr. Cynthia Lundgren, and we focused especially on information for administrators when we spoke with her. And one of the things that she talks about is the importance of seeing the day through the child's eyes.
Absolutely.
And I think particularly for English language learners, and if they're or struggling learners in general, their days can be really sliced and diced.
Absolutely.
Having a lot of different contact with a lot of people, sort of, as you said, in silos, sort of isolated, where nothing is really connected to each other, and where you think, well, they're getting the services they need, but not in a comprehensive way, and they're missing a lot of other things in the meantime. So I think that's a great recommendation, and that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
What is some of your advice for other administrators? So I think that's a powerful model of just what does this look like, and how does the day actually shake out? And we've worked with some schools that are doing really creative things with schedules. It's the same amount of time from the start to the end of the day. They're just taking it and organizing it a little bit differently, and I think it's exciting to see, you know, not to be a cliche of thinking outside the box, but we were talking about how you teach the way you were taught, and you sort of repeat what you have seen, and so thinking, how can we look at this from a child's perspective?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think that's exciting. We have a comment here from Laura Eunice Lopez, who says, it is absolutely vital that school administrators understand the ESOL program from the whole district and all staff collaborative approach. I'm thankful all the aspects that the ESOL programs involves are being explained. Thank you and congratulations. So I think you really have a lot to share, and our audience is clearly loving this. And Chandani says, once more, he is indeed a great leader with a clear vision. So you can see why he's been winning these awards. And Tammy says, this is a smart approach to pushing in with resources versus pull out. I will be sharing hashtag press in model.
Oh,
so,
thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
That's very cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
So we just have a few minutes left, but I do want to get back to the question of immigration, because that's a big issue on people's minds right now. And you said you were starting to see the impacts a little bit on your families, but I'd like to talk a little bit more about what you're seeing, how the kids are responding, how it's affecting your staff as well. What are some of the conversations you're having, and what do you see as your role as the school leader in addressing the uncertainty and the anxiety? So,
yeah, I mean, it's just become much more pervasive, the conversations from parents and from students. We have had, and I will say this, one of the maybe unexpected aspects that have come out of these types of conversations it's been a rise in parent and community advocacy. It's amazing to see our community at Minnieville kind of rise up and take care of each other. And so, you know, teachers, we have a job to do. You know, our job is to keep the students safe, teach to the standards, do an amazing job with that, and take care of not only the educational welfare, but the emotional welfare of our students. You know, these things are out of our hands, but we can make sure that we support our students and support our parents and support our community. So in light of the rise of these kinds of conversations, I've seen parents who have never spoken out, who have been afraid to speak out, join organizations, join community outreach groups, and speak up on behalf of their community. And in doing so, they've empowered other parents and other family members to come out of the shadows, if you will, as well, and bond together to advocate for themselves as best as they see fit. And it's amazing to see communities grow out of discord and actually come together and understand policy and ask and hold schools accountable, where we need to be questioned, we need to be asked. For example, a parent was alarmed of some perceived Islamophobia that's happening, and asked me, what are you going to do to protect my daughter? She wants to wear what she wants to wear. What kind of protections are you going to give to her? And I had never had that conversation before, but because of her advocacy and willingness to hold the school accountable, that makes us better as a school. Parents asking, are there going to be immigration officers in the school? And making sure that we're navigating that and working with our division to say that, no, this is not going to happen. This is the policy that we have. So out of fear and out of concerns and questions, we've actually seen communities bond together and just help each other out. And I think that's allowed the school to it's going to grow in some areas as well, because now parents, they know that they can do it. They know that now if they can speak up in their community, they can speak up at our PTO, or they can speak up at our school advisory council, or speak up at division meetings, school board meetings. So so out of discord, we've just seen more parents and more communities come together out of it. So it's still a challenge. I've had to, anytime a parent asks me to write a letter on behalf of a family to Immigration Service, or I do what I can. And so I'll write the letters. I'll speak to whoever I need to speak to. A lot of parents will ask me if I can, can the school provide a lawyer or provide some. But we have resources that we can give to our parents. So it's hard. It's challenging when you have a 5-year-old sitting at a cafeteria table asking if they're going to be sent back to their own country. It's a challenging question. That it's always kind of been there, but it's just more pervasive now, and it's helped me grow as a professional, and just make sure that we're now with our counseling services. It's just a different layer that we need to make sure that we put on top of our program, so that families and students get the help that they need.
Well, and to follow up on that, how would you say that your teacher and faculty, how are you equipping them to deal with this, and both at the classroom level and in the counseling, social, mental health?
So just once again, can't say enough about Prince William County's resources. This isn't something that our teachers have to find on their own. Our division has a lot of resources to be able to help our staff out. There's ongoing training that our faculty has. We make it a part of our faculty meetings. If we see that there's been an issue in the community, it becomes an agenda item that we share with our teacher leaders. Hey, this has come up, guys. You need to be aware of this. Use this if the conversations come up. Don't neglect the student's voice in those matters. Have a open, honest conversation about it. You're not going to know all the answers, but let the students discuss this, especially with our older students, our 4th and 5th grader students. And even with our kindergartners who are hearing all these things and seeing all these things, they need an opportunity to process it in a safe environment. And the school is the safe environment to do that. So as these things, not only with division resources, with the counseling services and the great department that we have, when these come up in a school level, we want to make sure that it's not just set off to the side. It needs to be something that's embraced, because that's how everybody can learn from it in an open, honest format.
And in addition to the resources and support you're getting from the district, are there other community partners, organizations, advocacy groups that you've had a partnership with at the school level?
Not so much at the direct school level, but in the community level. There's an organization called Voice. It's an outstanding organization to help provide resources for immigration issues, fair and housing and affordable housing processes. So that's been a great organization that that parents have asked about, and we've aligned them. They've been excellent to provide services with that. So if it's something that I would encourage watchers that are watching this to maybe look into, because Voice is a Northern Virginian group, and they could be a great resource to other schools that might have some of the same challenges that we do.
That's great. So Melanie Arthur had asked the question about faculty and teachers equipping themselves. So Melanie, I hope that was a good response to your question. And I would, just picking up on that, say that we've been doing a lot of work on this issue. We're going to be having some new resources come available very, very soon. But I think the partnership with the organizations who are working on this issue are so important, because these are professionals who are deeply, deeply immersed in these issues, and they know they have the updated information. They can answer those questions perhaps to a level of detail or even certainty that you might not feel comfortable with, or I might not feel comfortable with as a teacher. And so I think finding partners who can come do a workshop, to have a conversation, is really essential, because the school, as you said, the school's not going to have all the
Sure.
answers. The principal's not going to have all the answers. The principal is the public face, and the principal is the one who, there's a certain level of accountability for certain policies. But especially if the policies are changing, you really need professionals
Yeah,
who
absolutely.
know what they're doing. So I would encourage everyone to look for those partnerships in their community. So one more comment I want to share. Star Alan Granby
Hey, I know Star.
says, well done, excited for a great year. So you've had a good showing of your, what are you, the Eagles?
The Eagles,
The
yes,
Minnieville
yes.
Eagles are
At
coming out.
MNES Best,
Oh,
yeah,
oh.
hashtag, yeah, all that stuff, yeah. so-
Okay, good. All right. Well, they've been there loud and proud, so that's been really great. Anything else you wanted to add as you're thinking about the new school year and
You
all
know,
that you're getting
it's-
ready to do?
It's just a real pleasure to be here today, sharing a little bit of our story. I know that some of the awards that we have, the Washington Post Principal of the Year, it's a school award, and it's been just real awesome to be a part and represent not only our school but our school community. Colorin, Colorado has just great resources, and it's something that we always encourage our ESOL team to make sure that they navigate the website. It's very navigable, it's very easy to use, and there's always something to learn. And I'm asked a lot, what advice can you give principals? What would you share with them? I think at the end of the day, the principal has to be the chief learner. Sometimes the title might give us a sense of like we know everything. We don't know anything, because as soon as we know something, it's going to change the next day. So I would just encourage principals out there to continue not just to grow and enhance the professional capacity in the school, but reach out to other schools, reach out to other divisions, see what else is going on, and learn from people, learn from each other. Let's not be myopic, let's not be insular, because someone has the experience, someone has gone through the trouble, and someone's still learning from it. So I would just encourage principals just to continue to network, get on Twitter, just see what's going on out there, and don't be afraid to ask questions. The most vulnerable leaders are the best leaders, and especially with the changing times and some of the challenges that schools are facing with changing demographics. Give us a call, and reach out, and let's just learn from each other as a true professional community.
That's great. There's so many small things that people can do. As you said, it can be just as easy as looking at a Twitter account or starting, but at the other end, I had mentioned to you our interview with Cindy Lundgren that we did a few years ago. She actually shared the story of a principal who got a grant to go to refugee camps in Kenya. She had kids from Somalia and from some other countries in the area. And so she was able to then come back and say, this is what our kids have been through, and it just changed the entire approach. And so, there are small things and there are big things, but I think that sense of what can we learn from our students, what are their strengths, what are their assets, what are our gifts, that's the message we want people to take away, and I think everybody will be able to understand why we were so excited to interview Mr. Provencio today to share all that information. So thank you again for tuning in. Thank you to the NEA and the AFT for supporting this chat. And as we mentioned, this will be broadcast, the archive on our Facebook Live page. You'll be able to come back to it, and you'll also find it on our own page on Colorin, Colorado, so that for those of you who maybe have friends who aren't on Facebook, other friends, not Facebook friends, they'll be able to find it as well. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we wish all of you a great new school year coming up, a good school year to you as well.
Thank you
for
very
being
much.
here. Go Eagles.
Go Eagles, yeah.
And we'll see you soon. We'll let you know when our next events are going to be held. Stay tuned on Facebook and Twitter for those announcements. Thanks again for joining us.